Welcome to OmniTalk, powered by NXTsoft. I'm your host, Amy Rice, and OmniTalk is a podcast that focuses on fintech and how it affects banks and credit unions. On today's episode, we talk with Bobby Childs, VP of Business Development for NXTsoft, and Will Blackburn, NXTsoft's CTO. We will be discussing NXTsoft's new solution, OmniAlert, how it works, and why it's important to protect your most valuable assets from cyber threats. Today I have Bobby Childs. He is the VP of Business Development for NXTsoft. And I also have Will Blackburn, who's the CTO of NXTsoft. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having us, Amy.
Yep, no problem. So NXTsoft just released a new product called OmniAlert. Bobby, could you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've always been a visual learner, so I think the best way to describe OmniAlert is with a picture. And if you think of like your home, when you build a house, you don't build a house and seal it completely up. You don't brick yourself inside of it. House has openings, it has doors, it has windows, it has things where you can come in, where you can go out, where you can see outside. Well, just like that, our systems have these openings where we connect to other things, where we utilize APIs to connect systems together and things along that nature. Now, these openings are necessary for business and for efficiency, just like they're necessary in our homes. But anytime you have an opening, then you're a little bit more vulnerable. Things can be broken into. So what do we do in our homes? We have a security system put on, and that system's there to monitor that. It's there to listen for glass breaks. It's there to know when doors are open, when things are broken into. OmniAlert is very similar to that home security system and the analogy that I was using. And it's actually going out and it's looking at the logs from these APIs that are being generated from systems being connected and monitoring those and looking for issues, looking for problems, looking for things that need to have a CIO or a manager's attention drawn so they can be able to address these issues as they arise.
Will, could you talk a little bit about the technology that OmniAlert utilizes and how it protects a user from cybersecurity threats?
Yeah, absolutely. First, want to just say that I'm a big podcast fan, and so happy to have my first ever appearance on a podcast here. So just wanted to get that out of the way. But yeah, so OmniAlert from a technology standpoint, the big piece of technology we use is called a SIM. And that stands for Security Information and Event Management. And what this system does is it provides real-time analysis of security alerts and logs generated by applications. So, many applications could utilize a SIM to help you monitor security events and information. And really, to be able to understand how a SIM helps you, you can break it up into those two pieces, right? Security, information, and event. So part one is about information. And so as your applications are out there, as people are using a website or an API, et cetera, that information is ingested by the SIM and it is analyzed. And so in real time, as those logs come into the system, they're being analyzed. They're looking at, different artificial intelligence and reports out there, checking IP addresses, looking for malicious attempts to, get into your network, et cetera. And so the second part is about events. And so events are kind of handled in a couple ways. One, from the information that's ingested by the system, the system might say, hey, this is an alert, right? We see a malicious IP address that's trying to get access into the system, and we need to notify you about it so that you can do something about it. Or if a particular system already kicks off alerts, the system might see that. And so the second part around events, as certain criteria are met, the SIM will manage those events and think, okay, what should I do with this? And so we've created our own SIM here at NXTsoft for the OmniAlert product, and we're able to tell the system, what looks like an alert and how it should handle that. And so something we're really excited about. The other thing I want to mention is, really OmniAlert is about protecting APIs, monitoring APIs. And so if you think about the nature of APIs, a lot of information is being sent back and forth at all times of the day. So just like Bobby earlier kind of mentioned that, you want to put a security system on your house, it's no longer okay with APIs just to lock your house and go away on vacation. with the amount of information that's going to be sent back and forth, you have to be actively monitoring these APIs and really seeing what's going on there. The last thing I want to touch on is called a security operations center. And so while a SIM is a really cool piece of technology that analyzes information and events, the security operations center, known as a SOC, is the true operations center where people are sitting 24/7 and they're looking at the SIM, they're looking at the information, and they're looking at the alerts that are kicked out of the system and then acting on it. So it's not just enough to see an alert and say, hey, this is a bad thing. We need to be able to act on it, check with a particular client and see if there is an actual incident, or shut something down before it happens. And so that's where the SOC comes into play. We really believe that with OmniAlert, kind of combining the SIM and the SOC and monitoring these APIs as data is sent back and forth, that the value in protecting the customer and our clients' data, there's just tons of value that we're able to provide with OmniAlert.
Bobby, could you talk a little bit about why banks and credit unions should take advantage of this solution?
No, Amy, I think the most important thing to look at is you go back and look at the home analogy and the alarm system. Like Will said, nobody today just locks up their house and leaves and goes on vacation anymore or goes away. Quite frankly, speaking for my family, we don't leave and go to work or the grocery store without arming our alarm. It's just a part of our process that we do it because we want to keep something that's so important to us very secure and protected. And the other part of that with the alarm system is I've got somebody else monitoring it. I don't have the time or quite frankly, the funding or anything else to either have armed guards outside my house or something along that lines, nor do I have the time to personally be able to sit there all day long and watch my home and monitor it. I think the big value prop of OmniAlert is both of those pieces. We need to be monitoring what's going on with our APIs. We need to be looking at what is happening between these systems when they're talking. We need to be seeing what traffic is coming through there. That alone in itself is a time-consuming process. And to have that type of equipment on site can be a very expensive process. So really what this is doing for a financial institution is this is mitigating both of those issues. Number one, we're keeping the cost down because they're not having to incur the expense of this hardware coming on site. They're not having to bring all this on. They're not having to bring on headcount to be able to monitor and deal with it. And at the same time, with our SOC, we're able to actually eliminate the issue for them physically having to monitor it. Somebody's not having to sit there and look for these logs and be able to stare and go through each and every one of these and find any issues. Now our team, who is specialized in this and focused on doing this, is taking that burden off. So it really functions in that same value as what a security alarm does for your house. It's really protecting the house, which is in this instance the business. Is protecting the APIs, it's protecting the connections and the infrastructure, and that's really where the value comes from, is be able to keep that cost low but give the protection that's needed and the security that's needed to be able to prevent things like a breach or any kind of data loss or anything along that lines.
All right, so the last question I have for both of you is kind of a fun one. If you could have dinner with one person, living or dead, who would that be and why? And Bobby, you can go first.
Oh man, why do I got to go first? If I could have a dinner with one person, living or dead, and why? That's a hard one to narrow down. I'm a big music guy, so I could think of a lot of different artists that I would love to sit down with and just talk and hear music. But I don't want to give kind of a cliche answer, but coming personally and from my faith, if I could sit down with anybody, it would be Jesus. And it would be a conversation type dinner. It would really be just to sit down and eat and let him talk and learn and absorb everything that I could from him. I could not think of a more impactful way to spend an evening.
All right, well, you gonna top that one?
Probably not topping it. I would say my answer right now would be Andy Grove. So he was the CEO of Intel, helped start the company back, I believe, in the 60s, and then became its CEO in the 1980s. And, really, it has an awesome story as an immigrant into the United States. And then with what he was able to accomplish at Intel, I've read a lot of his books and material, and really responsible for leading the company's transition away from making memory chips to microprocessors, which might not mean a lot, but just a great example of somebody who didn't look back at the successes of his company for the first 15 years and think they could just keep doing that forever, because they would have gone out of business. But instead, they were able to transition, and through his leadership and management, Intel's still around today. So pretty neat story.
Awesome. Great answers, guys. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. I know you guys have a busy schedule, so I appreciate it.
Thank you, Amy.
Amy. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I appreciate the offer to join. This has been great.
NXTsoft is hosting its very first virtual user conference. What's Next? A Look at the Future of Cybersecurity and FinTech is a half-day conference on September 17th. Mentalist Alan Chamo will be the keynote entertainer, and there will be plenty of opportunities for one-on-one networking, insightful sessions, and a virtual expo area. The first 200 attendees to register will receive a free gift bag from NXTsoft. To learn more and to register to attend, visit www.nextsoft.com. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of OmniTalk. As always, stay safe and stay well.